space. Well, not really. Take two. Here, in the Mitten State. Welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek. Spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Go.
All righty, right back again. You are on the Code 47 podcast on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. I am your humble servant, Trek Lord of West Michigan, Charlie Carden, coming at you for episode 37. 37. With we were just talking about Kevin Smith before we got started. With my esteemed co-hosts, cohorts, partners in crime, that would be Aaron and Rich. Guys, how are we doing?
I thought we were rarin'.
Yeah, I thought we were going with rarin'.
Rarin'. I'm sorry, it's rarin'. Are we rarin' to go? I had to put that in the notes because I'll never remember. So are we rarin'?
We are rarin'. We just told you who we were.
Yeah.
Rarin'. That sounds like it's mispronounced in that Delco. That sounds like it's something you hear down in Delco, right? Right, Rich?
Oh my God.
Well, my sister-in-law lives down that way, and when she first started living in, they live in Wilmington, but when they lived there before, they lived in Delco. They were in Strathmore or Swarthmore, one of those burgs that's just south of Philly.
You're naming a bunch of places I've never heard of.
Exactly.
Because no one lives there.
She said people would jump to call her name is Erin, spelled just the same as yours is Aaron, but people call her Aaron. So I think that the rarin' is it's very apropos, I think.
When I was a kid, I had this relative that called me Aowan.
That sounds very Vulcan, doesn't it?
They turned it into like 3 syllables somehow.
Nice.
Oh, creepy, weird. Anyway, but anyway, episode 37. We're taking a break from talking about episodes because we had some new content drop on Paramount Plus within the last couple of weeks, and it's a documentary. Is this the first documentary we're talking about? Because
it is. This is a beautiful documentary. We couldn't have picked a better one. And I know they have that Spock documentary out there, but this one's so much better. No offense to that.
You know what? It's maybe someday, maybe we'll start to sprinkle in documentaries maybe once a quarter. You know, we'll hit the Spock one and the DS9 one. The Voyager one will come out eventually, and that'll be great.
And then we're gonna all watch the crowd-funded series that they did that was awful.
Oh God.
Oh boy, I just can't wait. Things are great when it's crowd-funded. But anyway, Paramount Plus now has a great documentary called, and there's a Facebook page for it as well if you want to read more about it, Women in Motion.
It's actually called Woman in Motion. You have it spelled wrong everywhere. It's about one singular woman who the documentary is about. So
let me change those E's to A's. I'm just a lying piece of where. Well, I only see that I have it in there once, so I think you're dramatizing a little bit. Maybe just a little.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Fine. Very good. But yes, Woman in Motion is the extraordinary true story of what happened to Nichelle Nichols, Star Trek's Lieutenant Uhura, when Nichelle Nichols, asked NASA, "Where are my people?" Did I say NASA? Oh,
you
God.
did, NASA.
I haven't had that much to drink. NASA, where are my people? The story of how Nichelle Nichols.
I think she just said, "Where are my people?"
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said it with like an affectation.
Where are my people? I'll try to say it as straight.
Yeah, like a robot.
Where are my people? The story of how Nichelle Nichols changed the face of the NASA space program by recruiting over 8,000 of the nation's best and brightest, including trailblazing astronauts who became the first African Americans, women, and Asians to fly in space. Woo!
Yeah.
Holy cow. Where do we get started? Aaron? Please.
You'd think I would have a lot to say, but the documentary speaks for itself. I think anybody should watch it. A couple of things that I was really thinking of when I watched this is when I did that interview with Melinda Snodgrass, that writer, she said that the first thing that she ever wrote was an opera for Nichelle Nichols. And I thought, why would you do that? Like, I wasn't criticizing her, but I was thinking to myself, like, okay, but why would you want to write an opera for her? And then after seeing this and seeing how talented she is, I mean, on Star Trek, she's the most talented human being there and has, like, the smallest role of the main cast.
No doubt.
She can sing like an angel. She can dance. she's amazing. And then they just had her a little calm person. But it all made sense when I was watching it. Like, oh, of course she'd want to write her an opera because she knew what an amazing, talented woman this was.
Absolutely. And again, 1966. I mean, it was more than it was a whole foot over the line to have any. I remember Gene Roddenberry had an interview from the late 1960s, which when they released a VHS, The Cage on VHS. So it had never been seen on TV, but he had a little documentary which he filmed around the sets of the TOS Enterprise. So from like Star Trek 3 or 4, and he was talking about casting of the show. And one line he mentioned was that he refused to cast the show, quote unquote, sensibly, meaning all whites. So yeah, as we all know, he cast an African American woman, he cast an Asian male, and that was big enough. But boy, in this day and age, it just seems like it's really nothing at all. But yeah,
he also tried to make it diverse by like having having like a Scottish character,
right.
It wasn't just like, oh, here's a token black person, here's a token Asian person. It was like, let's have something for everyone.
Right. Let's make it a representation of Earth or bigger than Earth, because we're in a future where we're a galactic community. So there are other races out there. And
somehow keep majority white males so it can appeal to television, so it can be successsul. I think it was a very, very ballsy move that Gene Roddenberry had, but he knew what he had to do. Okay, so the most impactful thing for this documentary for me was when she was talking about Dr. King. And
I love that story.
And I'm sure you guys know how I feel about that, but I was wondering how you felt about that. How did you feel when you were hearing her say that?
I mean, I had certainly heard I had heard the story before, but to hear it told in this fashion, I didn't. I always knew that was why. I know that she wanted to leave the show after the end of the first season because she felt very marginalized in a lot of ways. Kind of what you were talking about. Yes, she was there. She was very talented, but her ideas were getting shot down, and she was getting written out of things on the cutting room floor. So she had written her letter of resignation, which I didn't realize she had turned it in, and then had to in turn go back and turn it back. But yeah, she was at an NAACP awards ceremony and standing around milling about doing her thing when one of her handlers or someone, I don't exactly remember who the gentleman was, though we did see him in this documentary, came up and say, "I've got this fan. He's absolutely dying to meet you." And she all but rolls her eyes internally, like, "Oh boy, another fan." Turns around and it's Dr. Martin Luther King, and saying, things to the effect that she's like, "God, I love Star Trek." She's like, I just resigned. She said, "You got to go take that back." It wasn't even really a question. You got to go take that back. Your show is the only television program I let my daughters watch.
He said, "We need you.
We need you." And
yeah.
How do you? It is. And again, none of us are particularly religious people, but it's the hand of God. It's the hand of Dr. Martin Luther King that reached down and put its hand on her shoulder and said, "We need you."
Yeah.
Well, I think it probably didn't resonate to her what she was doing until he said that. And there would be nobody else as significant in the planet that could tell you as a black person that you need to do something more than Martin
in the history of black people before and after. I will postulate, because I'm not a black person, but that's my vibe, because who is on par with Dr. Martin Luther King in the history of the struggle?
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
imagine that. Imagine someone saying to you, "No, you can't do this. You have to do this. You have to stay here."
Right.
And I mean, people tell people that all the time. My mom would tell me, "You have to stay in school," right, or whatever, right? But for Martin Luther King Jr. to say that to a black person is, I mean, it's empowering. It is, I'm trying to think of the word here. What?
And of course you're going to do it. I mean,
yes, right.
Yeah.
Who's going to say no to Dr. Martin Luther King, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because she probably saw it as like a small acting role that wasn't living up to her talents because, like I said before, she was the most talented person on that show all around. She was the best actor. She was the best dancer. She was the best singer. And she was underutilized. They barely utilized her at all.
Right.
So for her to feel like she was very, very small to she's a very, very big part of something, I mean, that's incredible. And has to be what fuels what she does next with the space program.
Right, exactly. So you never really know how what you do, and this is just true of life of all of us. You never, like with children, we all have children, right? You never really know what you say or how you do is going to touch the influence of somebody's world. And even if it's with not even your kids, but I've done a lot of charity work in my time doing the cosplay stuff, and I have friends with small kids that I spend time with them, and you never really know how something you're going to say or do is going to inspire somebody to rise above or look at things differently. So children in particular are always watching, which is terrifying with as much as I'm sure we all screw up with our own kids, but it's a good perspective, right?
Yeah, totally.
Definitely. I have something that I wanted to talk about when we're seeing the footage, the older footage of Nichelle talking about the Women in Motion program. She's sitting there with a model of the space shuttle and a model of the Enterprise.
Oh.
Yeah.
And the model of the Enterprise has the nacelles on backwards.
What?
How is that even possible?
Ass backwards BS is that? Well, obviously it was a kid that was like, oh, we got to build some set pieces for Nichelle Nichols being on. So I'm going to go down to Walmart and I'm going to pick up this AMT Enterprise kit. And I guess I'm going to throw the box away, and I'm going to tear up the instructions, and I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to wing it. Who's going to know? It'll kind of look like the Enterprise. It should be just fine.
And you'll have fun doing it.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So yeah, but that was one that Richie, I think you watched this before, at least before I did, and you dropped that picture on our group chat, and I was like, oh, what the fuck? This is not correct. But they meant well.
The second really impactful moment for me was when she was talking about how she got motivated to do this with the scientist at the convention, and him crushing on her big time. Meanwhile, she was like in awe of, him and his brilliance, and somebody from NASA actually wants to meet me and talk to me. That was like the second part of the catalyst to like set this all into motion. It was very, very cool to hear it from her perspective, talking about her legs and, how beautiful he thought she was.
If it was a Hollywood script, they would have been married. If this was a Hollywood script, that's how this would have.
I was trying to figure out if they did end up getting married. Just the kind of way they set it up. So it's crazy. So it's the early 1970s. Star Trek has ended. The delightful Star Trek, the animated series, has ended. We're years before the Star Trek film franchise. So, and this is what Nichelle starts doing, is she does it kind of throughout the late 1970s and into the 1980s. So, she ushers the careers of people like Sally Ride, who was the first woman in space, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they said her campaigning only lasted 4 months.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but yeah, it was something staggering that there were 100 female recruits before her program, and 8 of them were minorities, and it went from 8,000 to something like 2,500 were women and minorities. So it's just staggering. Yeah, and it was this huge multimedia campaign, which is hilarious back in those days. Because multimedia I was in the newspaper, the radio, and TV. Ooh, multimedia, which I chuckle because I as a student I came up in that world, and I was a journalist when I was in school, and I sold newspaper advertising for years. But it's funny that I heard it on the AM radio as I'm driving to the Piggly Wiggly or whatever. Or I saw a TV commercial, during the 6:30 news, and it worked. It worked, which just showed what a hunger, what a talent pool, untapped talent pool existed out there of brilliant minds. It
was also interesting when she was saying NASA wanted these minorities, but the impression that the minorities have it's a government program and they don't want to hire minorities, but NASA is run by scientists who did want them. So it was interesting they were saying nobody was applying. That's why they needed her to do this. They knew that the talent was out there that they needed.
Mhm.
They just didn't know how to get it.
Yeah, I
It says
really
a
love.
lot about racism.
Yes, absolutely. I loved that there were the astronauts that were rejected or they weren't allowed to apply because they were in the military, but they could apply as civilians, and they never thought of it. And then there was I can't remember which astronaut it was, but he was talking about how his commanding officer came to him and said, "Why did you apply to this as a civilian?" And he said, "Because I knew that I would never get in as an officer," which again says a lot about the racist power structure, even in the military,
Well,
Right.
and to be quite frank with you, it's still not that much
Mhm.
better considering how much time has lapsed between then and now.
Okay.
There isn't enough. We don't have enough black senators. We don't have enough, maybe the military's slightly better now. I know that they're treated a lot better,
Mhm.
but like people that are in politics, in the government, at the forefront, there aren't that many of them.
Mm-mm. And the ones that are there are like browbeaten.
I mean,
Right,
for
yeah,
Christ's sake, we've
think
had
about the
one black president,
Mhm.
Think
zero
about the-
female
yeah.
presidents.
Yep.
Think about the midterms a couple of years ago when AOC was elected, and there was a Muslim senator or congressperson that came from Dearborn, Michigan, which is the biggest Muslim population outside of the Middle East in this country, here in my state. And think about how all the cranky old white men led by
Mhm.
Trump, just endlessly droned on about it. You know what I mean? But for every cranky old white guy who passes out of power by dying, they serve to then be replaced by the Stacey Abrams and by the AOC and by new voices and minorities and the thing that make this country great. Wow, we are really monologuing on this sucker here, but we're not wrong. But we're not wrong. We're not wrong.
Everybody can know where we stand. One of the things that I have a big issue with when it comes to like Star Trek fandom that I've come to learn with the North Americans in the United States, not the ones in Canada, are they're extremely white and they're extremely conservative and they're mostly men.
Which is bizarre.
And
very
old.
bizarre.
And
Yeah,
I watched the original series and you watched the original series, which was packed with minorities, and you hate minorities. Why did you enjoy the original series?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's super frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. So but at any rate, yeah, we to see what she did and then to watch the way this ended. I mean, it was funny. There was this ended with the capper of this was the Challenger disaster in January of 1986, which I was 9 years old, almost 10, and it's one of those. What's the first disaster that you remember hearing about the news, or was a post that someone or somebody did? Like, what was the first news event that you remember as a child? And I was tagged on it because my father, who's in his 70s, posted the Kennedy assassination, where my dad would have been 13 years old, maybe. If I'm doing the math right, 12 or 13. And mine was Challenger because I remember I went to an elementary school in a rural area outside of Grand Rapids, and it was gym class, and we were, I don't know if you guys experienced this when you were going to gym in the 80s, but we did square dancing. So
No.
it was I guess that's a Michigan thing. It was square dancing, and we were square dancing, and the Challenger disaster happened, and the TV got rolled in, and it was I didn't experience that again until 9/11, because I was at work. It was like you remember where you were, that Tuesday. I think it was a Monday or Tuesday morning, 9/11. But
I was really, really touched by this in the documentary when she talks about it.
It's painful to watch, though.
Well, I think what she said that meant a lot to me was when she started to break down and like, Michelle, we can stop. We don't have to talk about this. And she said, I owe it to her.
Yeah.
She feels partially responsible for that woman. And that's terrible. It's a terrible thing for her to have to carry with her. Yeah.
I'd have to agree with that. Did the Challenger have an effect on you, Aaron, when you were a kid? Do you remember it vividly or anything?
I mean, I'm a little bit younger than you guys, so not really. I mean, I was born in 1981, so probably not as much. I mean, I knew about it, but
Sure.
I wasn't old enough to really comprehend it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was in 6th grade, and I want to say I was in science class, and they like you, Charlie, they rolled the TV in and they put it on the news, and we got to watch it. This was on an airbase too, so.
Right.
Yeah.
It affected my mom pretty bad because she was a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember her talking to me about it because of how it made her felt because of the whole like civilian thing, school teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's my only memory of it is my mom's reaction.
Right. So,
I wanted to go back real quick to something that you were saying, Charlie, that we were kind of monologuing on the racist structure, power structure in the country and everything. But I think it's important that we did talk about that because that's really kind of what this is about, right? This is about getting other people of other minorities or other people in the minority groups involved in NASA as a whole. And you really did see a lot of the glaring racism.
It's also important for us to talk about it because what we need white people, and the three of us are white for the most part. Not going to get into why I said the most part, but white people need to acknowledge that this is stuff that goes on and that they understand it and on a fundamental level.
Yep.
And we don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm really glad that we did bring it up, even though it might be controversial. I made air quotes when I said that. But.
Yes, I love making it. See, this is going to be different when we like the other shows in the SFU network are going to be going to video. You're going to be seeing us on YouTube, so we're going to have to clean up our act. We might have to brush your hair, wash your ass, stop picking your nose. So that's I'm just talking about myself. I
always look nice.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it. So
I'm always ready.
Guys, any closing thoughts before we move on to the news?
I said everything I needed to say, but I feel like I really monopolized a lot of that conversation. So if you guys have anything, I mean, please, I'd love to hear.
Well, hell, Aaron, you're a woman, so you should be driving the boat on this because you have that perspective that two old honky men like me and Rich are just not going to have. So we're very grateful.
I am not that old.
We did get a little bit political on this, but the one thing that we didn't say about her being a woman, we've touched on the race issue a lot, but not the female issue. And that is a big part of why her Star Trek roles were so small, because she's female. She needs to look nice and not say a lot because nobody wants to listen to her. And it's the same thing now with gender wage gaps. We still have a very, very long way to go, but it's wonderful that there are people out there like Nichelle Nichols that are trying to make a difference and trying to make things right.
Absolutely. There, what you mentioned that, and there's actually, she relayed a story of a producer on Star Trek telling her, hey, we're going to cut this part, but it has nothing to do with you. And she said, you're not me. It has everything to do with me.
Exactly.
Right.
So many people don't understand that in such a grand scale in this country alone. And it's painful. It's painful to see that so many people are just that, I don't know if it's willfully, but so ignorant of that fact.
I know it.
Well, I'd love to talk to anyone that feels that way.
I would love to watch you do that.
Friends, you can hit us up at Secret Friends U on Twitter. I would imagine.
Post it on the Secret Friends Unite Facebook page. I like to talk to people on there and then get them blocked. So by all means, let's have it.
Which I think you've done at least twice. So
it's been twice.
Anyway, so this was spectacular. Everybody, it is available on Paramount Plus, which you very likely have anyway if you are watching the newer Star Trek programs. If you are, in the United States. So I guess I don't necessarily know where it's distributed on the international basis, but I'm just kind of thinking of the U.S. If
I should know this. Somebody just told me because I hang out with a bunch of Canadians all the time, and
right. You know what? And if you need to find it and you need our help, please drop us a line. We will track it down.
Yeah, I'll tell anybody where they can find it.
Yes, indeed. You'll tell them where to go.
Yeah, I'll tell you. No matter what you have to say, I'll tell you where to go. Whether it be in a mean way or a nice way.
Oh my goodness! All right, well, moving on. This was actually a story I talked about on the regular Secret Friends program that we recorded last night, which will be already out by the time you listen to this. There is a crowdfunded documentary going on right now, set to explore 1982, the greatest geek year. Now, get ready for a fist fight. And the reason I included it here is that the art that you see here includes Star Trek II, because that was the year that we got the Wrath of Khan. So, there's a crowdfunding project going on right now to make a documentary, and this just seems to be the way. I mean, before much time goes by, the three of us will start a crowdfunding project so that we can have our documentary. But yeah, these producers, Robert Lay Jr., who made Star Trek: The Roddenberry Vault, Twilight Zone 60th anniversary, Mark A. Altman, who's a big name in Star Trek, Free Enterprise, and The Librarians, which I know is a show that Oxtra enjoys, and Thomas Vitale, who made Netflix, Slasher, and Pandora.
Can we list some of the movies that came out that year? Because
you took the words right out of my mouth, because that's exactly what I'm going to do.
I think if we did, it would convince people this might be the greatest geek year ever. I mean, two of my favorite movies of all time are in here.
I need to know which ones those are.
And I had a counterpoint that I will get to in a moment about a different year in the 80s. But anyway,
let's do it.
Beloved films include E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Blade Runner, The Thing, Creepshow, The Dark Crystal, Tron, Conan the Barbarian, Cat People, super sexy movie that I love and my wife hates, The Road Warrior, and Poltergeist, which happened to open the same day as Star Trek II. So before I move on to completely dispel this with my list, Aaron, what are your two most beloved films from 1982 that you want to tell us about?
I want you to guess.
Star Trek II and E.T.
My guess would be Blade Runner and Conan the Barbarian.
Oh my God, Rich, you got it.
I did?
You got both of them. You
What
said
up?
I was like, he's gonna get the one and then not the other. and then you did.
And I completely flopped. My counterpoint, and then because I'm making a counterpoint and I'm giving a different year, we know that Aaron is lodged in 1982. I am going to go with 1984.
What came out in 84?
Well, that's exactly what I'm going to tell you about, because I had to do this exact same thing when Oxford and I were recording last night. 1984 gave us Dune, Gremlins, The Neverending Story, The Karate Kid, The Last Starfighter, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Buckaroo Banzai and the Voyage Across the Eighth Dimension, Police Academy, Red Dawn, Terminator, Splash, Beverly Hills Cop, Supergirl.
Listen, here's the thing. You looked that up.
Of course I did.
But we didn't look up the movies from 1982. These are coming from an article. So
right.
Unless you can give me a side-by-side of independent research, I'm not going to say this is valid.
Oh my.
Google is the most independent research that exists.
Then Google movies of 1982. We might have some hidden treasures that aren't on here. Because if we're going by this versus what you just said, that's going to win out.
Okay, so and when I bring this up, it has a lot of the same shit. So you had Dark Crystal, Thing, Poltergeist, Blade
Fast
Runner,
Times at Ridgemont
Tron, Diner, which is a great flick that I like, The Beastmaster. There's Star Trek II, Fast Times, Annie, which is another movie, Creepshow, Sophie's Choice.
Oh my God, I love that movie, Annie.
Rambo, the first Rambo out. Tomorrow. Officer Gentlemen, Reach 2. I mean, we're getting into the weeds here. Airplane 2.
Airplane 2? Tootsie.
Exactly. 48 Hours. I mean, so like I said, we start to wax and wane the further I go down the list. But
I'm really excited about Blade Runner, Conan the Barbarian, and Road Warrior being on here. However, you're right. That was a better year for movies.
Thank you, Rich. What is your esteem for the best year for films?
God, I'd have to do my research. I want to say.
Fuck you! No research. Sorry.
No, Rich, but based on like those 2 years, 82 and 84, with the movies he's just listed, which year is better?
God, I would have to go with I mean, 82 has some gems. I mean, Blade Runner is one of my all-time favorite films.
Yeah, it's like one of mine. It's like in my top 3. However, I'm saying as a body of work, 84 wins, even though my favorite movie is on here, and I love 3 of these so much. I like all these movies except E.T. That movie sucks.
So in some ways, you're saying that it's not a quantity versus quality.
It's a body of work.
Because there's a lot of quality, but there's a lot of quality within the quantity of what's in 1984, which wins out.
84 is going to win out definitely because of how Dune. I mean, everything you said is pretty much a hit except one. This has some real turds in here.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It is more of an 82 turd sandwich. I'll give you that. Which I would love. I wish I could name this episode that, but I can't. Out of respect for Nichelle Nichols, I cannot name this episode 1982 turd sandwich. But it will be that in my heart. Sorry, Nichelle. Yeah. I love you. So, okay.
Wait, 84 also had Beverly Hills Cop. Don't forget. Did you mention that one? Okay. All right. I did. That was a good one. I like Beverly Hills Cop.
Any other thoughts about this before we move on to our final story?
Nichelle Nichols is our queen. She's the queen of Star Trek, and she is royalty.
This movie gave me the documentary gave me a profound respect for Nichelle Nichols that I didn't have before, because I'd never connected with her on a personal level, and that's something I learned in this. She is so wonderful and warm and kind and personable.
Yes.
And it was absolutely beautiful. I was very impressed with it. But can we talk about some assimilation?
Well, that's how I was trying to. You guys actually jumped ahead in the program, but I thought what you said was very great. But Aaron, why don't you talk about this? I've done all the blathering. Talk about this last story, and then we'll get up on.
Let's let Rich talk about it.
What?
Oh yeah,
I just saw it.
Yeah, I just saw it for the first time too. That's why I threw you under the bus.
Oh man, there's
so
I'm gonna
so much love.
All right, I'm gonna derp my way through this. So apparently, there is a Borg cube advent calendar with Star Trek goodies. And according to this article, it looks like it's obviously a cube, but it's in several different pieces that come out of it, and there's all kinds of little fun things like.
If I had this, I wouldn't need pornography anymore.
Yeah, you're right. It's like, oh, socks.
Right.
Give me a coffee mug. Oh. Now, are they all? And they're all multi-themed. But it's because they have 3 pieces of 3 samples of it. So there's like a cardboard coaster which shows you see the 1701. You have socks which are the 1701D, and then you have a coffee mug that says 2063 first warp flight, which really ties in with the Borg because it's first contact. So I'm wondering,
I want this. I've never wanted any of the crap that you guys talk about and you like, because I'm like, oh, it's just a bunch of junk. I want this.
I gotta have it too, but I'm just wondering if overall the Borg is some kind of theme, or if it's, but I suppose it really wouldn't be, because you've got the TOS stuff and then you've got this. So yeah, I'm dying to know. And again, when does this go on? So, oh my God, it's $140.
Yeah, but it's
money well spent.
Yeah, it's not one of those cheap, advent calendars where it's like, oh, look, a little tiny piece of chocolate, or oh, look, it's a paper ring that's going to fall apart. This is like quality stuff.
You never lived as a Jew, because you don't get much.
You don't get much. Well, and this is actually available from the Eagle Moss people, which Eagle Moss is, I never shut up about my Eagle Moss Starships collection. So
I have all the plaques. Did you know that? I have all the ship plaques.
I have.
That's amazing.
I don't have them all, but what I do have is in my half bath in the first floor of my home. There were existing shelves there because, again, this is the house I grew up in. It was my mom's house. It's very nicely decorated. She had some beautiful shelves in there, which I turned into my Enterprise lineage. I took all of the ships and I layered them from, depending on how I have it set up, from oldest to newest Enterprise, or newest to oldest backwards, and I have the plaques behind. So but I don't have them all. I have the plaque for the NX-01. I have the 1701. I think I have the D and the E, and then they all kind of correspond with what lines up. So I love those plaques, and again, I may someday, let's say if I moved and I was going to redecorate, or if I had my own little space, I might do what you did. I might just buy all the plaques and put them up on the wall. I think that'd be magnificent.
Yeah, well, they don't sell them all anymore. They discontinued a lot of them, so I'm glad I bought them when I did. But I have one,
Are
two, three,
you
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
sure?
So
I literally
I have
the shop
9
up
of
right
them.
now. I literally have the shop up right now. I might have to discredit you, but I don't want I don't want to do it as we record.
No, go ahead,
so.
because I was just looking because I know that they came out with the Discovery and the Shenzhou, and since I collect them, so I was talking to somebody about them, and I'm like, oh, you used to just be able to buy them all together as a set or individually, and you can't anymore.
They're not only still available, but they're currently on sale.
Oh, then they must have restocked because they didn't even have them on site.
There are 9 items. I'll read them to you.
And this was like a week ago.
Well, actually, it looks like there's 5 that are available right now. So maybe they're not all, but you can get the TOS Enterprise, the Franklin, the NX-01, which I have. Yeah, they really are out of stock. There is the Discovery and the Shenzhou.
Yeah, you can't get them anymore. So
and there's an absolutely beautiful
Enterprise, Defiant, Voyager, Enterprise, Franklin, Nomad, Discovery, Shenzhou.
Wow, and the Nomad is, of course, the club you belong to. So that's
it was custom.
But there also is a beautiful Colonial Seal from Battlestar Galactica, of which I'm a massive fan. So yeah, I love Hero Collector Eagle Moss because they have a lot of Battlestar Galactica stuff. So anyway, this has turned into a product rumble hell for Eagle Moss. But if you would like, I think, Rich, let's make sure we put a link in the show notes to this product because I may have to save up my nickels and dimes to get me this one because they're going to get some good swagging in there. So. But yeah, that actually takes us to the end of the program. So this has been fun. Again, we veered away from talking about episodes this week. Next week, Rich and I are doing this just absolutely amazing interview that he and I did with the Tipton brothers from IDW Comics. They write Star Trek comics. After that, we will get, actually the week after that, we talk about Star Trek Generation. So we're back to talking about a show or a movie. So
I'm gonna skip out next week, guys, because I don't care.
You're not into the comic book.
I'm not a comic book person.
And then we won't drag you back for Star Trek the Animated Series, but we do have an agreement that you got to do the Lower Deck stuff with us. You got to tough out.
Listen, I'm almost done with the Lower Decks, and I hate it, but I'm doing it.
You know what? But that's a true devotion to the craft. I appreciate that. So with that being said, Aaron, take us out.
Oh, I'm doing this. I closed the page.
Okay,
sorry,
Rich, take us out.
I got to back up. For more information about Starfleet International and Michigan and beyond, please visit Graham Petoskey and Nomad on Facebook. The Code 47 podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite network and is produced by Todd Oxtra.
Oh, yeah. Friends, as always, thank you for joining us. Of course, we are part of the Great Secret Friends Unite Network, as Aaron has said. You are listening to the Code 47 podcast. We also have a great show about Star Wars called the Holocron Chronicles Co-op Mode. Talks about video games, and every Friday since 2014, Secret Friends Unite is talking about geek culture in general, your guide to the geek side. All of our content can be found on our brand spanking new website, secretfriendsunite.com. Original content, future up and coming content, and all of our podcasts can be found over there. So leap over and give that bad boy a bookmark because you're going to want to keep your eye on it. You can find us on Twitter at SecretFriendsU. Drop us a line. Let us know if you have a question, and we will do the best that we can to help you out. Please buy our awesome stuff on our Secret Friends Unite store on TeePublic. Just today, Rich got himself some SFU swag because they have a great sale going on. They have sales about twice a month. And I even picked up a couple of new things. So show your love for our shows, any and all of our shows. We have new designs showing up there all the time.
Hey, Charlie.
Yes.
How much are shirts?
Shirts are as little as $13. And
oh, my gosh. And they're usually 20
And they're usually 20 That's 35% off.
I have to get on there. I have to get on there. That's so good.
Do it, absolutely. By the time you're listening to this, you'll be looking forward to our next sale, but we will always let you know when that stuff is going down. And all proceeds of that do support the network and our ability to bring you great stuff. So with that, I will bid you adieu. Thank you for joining us. I'll tell you, as always, that sharing is caring and to keep on trekking.
And we're still celebrating Gay Pride Month.
So gay.
We're very gay. Kapla.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Or the one.